In today's video, we're going to be looking at Good Die Young in the color Riot, the infamous Riot. I have my swatches labeled 1 through 12, but that is not synonymous with hair levels. I'll be doing pictures and close-ups near the end of the video, so the numbers just help us keep track of each swatch. These are human hair swatches, but they are not all virgin hair. Most likely, they've been dyed and or bleached in their existence. Number 1 is a dusty blue. I was picturing maybe somebody had dyed their hair blue and it faded. 2 is gray. 3 is a natural red. 4 is black. And then from 4 to 11, we have a range that goes to platinum blonde. And then number 12 is like a toned version of number 11. I'll start by putting the dye directly from the container at the top of each swatch. And then some people do like to dilute their dyes, so I'll do a diluted version at the bottom of each swatch. Please keep in mind, everyone's hair is different, which means everyone's hair will take dye differently. So just use my video as a reference for how this could possibly turn out on your hair. For the diluted section, this is actually pretty pigmented, so we're going to do an 8-to-1 ratio. So that is 1 part dye to 8 parts of diluter. If you're unsure what diluter is, the short, simple answer is that it essentially lightens the color of the dye. And if you're wondering what I use, I just use a plain white conditioner. All right, I'm gonna let these sit for about 3 hours. I will then rinse them out, and when they're dry, I will meet you back here. So first things first, this is a pretty pigmented dye. I can see a difference on number 5 and up, obviously. Now with the number 5 swatch, even I can see, like I said, I can see a difference in this direct lighting, but I'm not sure if you would be able to tell in normal house lighting. And also, I wouldn't say that it looks like orange hair, but it definitely adds a warmth to the hair. And honestly, I feel like the direct dye portion for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, and then 1 through 3, it all looks a lot more red than orange. It pulls very red. So just to be sure, I googled pictures of Hayley Williams back when she had orange hair, just so like I was remembering it correctly. While I personally remember feeling like this more diluted orange color is a little bit more iconic to the Hayley Williams look, I did notice that in some pictures her hair did look like this, the direct dye portion as well. I'm assuming she probably used a color similar to this, and then as it would fade, it would go closer to this. So I think she did a pretty good job recreating her own iconic hair color. It's actually kind of hard for me to say what would be my favorite. The direct dye portion really does look good to me from 7 through 12. And then the diluted section, I think I like 11 the most. It does still look kind of nice and almost close to, I won't say it does look natural, but it looks closer to a natural orange on 9, and 10, and I guess number 8 as well. The diluted section on number 3 also kind of looks more natural. It does help pull out a little bit more warmth in the hair. It doesn't look quite as orange as it does on like the number 8. It probably looks closer to the number 7 swatch actually. Like they look very similar. All right, so I wanted to get into the comparisons. So we'll start with Arctic Fox in the color Sunset Orange. I did want to mention really quick, if you do have hair that's darker than like a platinum blonde, there is a chance that Sunset Orange turns kind of red on your hair. And if Sunset Orange turns red on your hair, then this Riot is definitely going to look red on your hair as well. So actually, I did want to say too, when I was applying the Riot, it looked very red and that concerned me. But as I washed it off, it was kind of interesting because the water was actually red. It seemed like the red pigment washed off and then the orange pigment stayed. But it still, like I said, pulls very red. I feel kind of like the Sunset Orange leans a little bit more like peachy, maybe a touch more muted. And I feel like if I were to pull this down to the diluted section, you can kind of see that. So the direct portion for Riot is very red leaning, and then as you dilute it, it kind of is like a yellowy orange. So in general, this is a very warm leaning orange. And the Sunset Orange doesn't really have that yellowness to it in comparison, even on the diluted section. Like I said, to me, peachy is kind of what my mind goes to. I mean, it's not a peach. There's still not enough of like pink in it, but in comparison, it's not quite as yellow. So I wouldn't necessarily put both of these in the same category of oranges. The only real similarity in terms of orange, at least, is that on darker blondes, lighter browns, it'll probably turn red for both Riot and Sunset Orange, but on platinum blonde hair, they are different enough. The other comparison I wanted to do today is Manic Panic in the color Psychedelic Sunset. This is comparable to number 12, number 11, number 10, number 9, and then I actually did a dusty blue for that one as well. So this is comparable to number 1. In terms of undertone, I feel like the Psychedelic Sunset is maybe a little bit closer, but it's not quite the same either. You can see on the diluted section that it leans even more yellow looking, and if I pull it down, because the direct eye portion isn't quite as dark as the direct eye for Riot either. So if I pull this down, you can still kind of see that the undertones aren't quite the same. I think overall that it is the yellow in the orange for Psychedelic Sunset. I think it has just a little bit more yellow. And you can see how that bit of yellow in the Psychedelic Sunset affects how it dyes the darker blonde swatches. It definitely dyes on the direct eye portion, but it starts to fade out a little bit more on the diluted section versus how the Riot took, and on the dusty blue. So the Riot definitely dyed that very easily. It almost looks similar to the number 8 swatch, I would say. And then the Psychedelic Sunset, it dyed it too, but it actually looks closer to a natural red. It looks like it more so tried to neutralize the blue out of the hair. But yeah, so far, based off of the oranges I've done, none of them are quite the same as Riot. I was thinking about comparing Flame and Fire for Punky Color, but I always get them mixed up. I think Flame is the darker one. That one looks a lot more red, but even when you dilute it, it still looks kind of like a red. And then Fire is a very like marigold type of color, so I didn't think either of those were close enough to compare. So if you always dreamed of having the Hayley Williams hair color, you can now have it. Of course, if I do any other oranges in the future that are similar, I will compare those. But now I'd like to get into the before and after clips, which I do use natural lighting for, as well as everything after that point in the video. And I'm sure, as you know, recreating the exact same environment with natural lighting can be difficult, so if the before and after clips look kind of off from each other, that it's probably why. I hope this video helped. If you have a request, I do have a link below to a Google form you can fill out. Just remember, I only do dyes that do not test on animals. Thank you to my patrons, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.